Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here's your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. This is Tim Wilson, the host of People in Fundraising, a webcast podcast where I talk with people across the country about their professions, their careers, how they entered the philanthropy sector, what they like about working for nonprofits and for-profits, and any lessons learned throughout their journey in this interesting profession. And this morning, I am delighted to welcome Jennifer Vincent to our program. Hello, Jennifer.
Hey, Tim.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So Jennifer is an account executive in the higher education solutions vertical for the Southeast region of our country for Blackbaud. And one thing I really wanted to talk with Jennifer about is how she went from the nonprofit sector to the for-profit sector. And we will get into that really quickly because it sounds like it's a question that Jennifer gets asked quite a bit, perhaps even more so during the pandemic. So we'll cover that question and a few others as well today. So Jennifer, anything you'd like to add about your role at Blackbaud, what Blackbaud is for our listeners?
Well, for those who are in the nonprofit area, they probably know Blackbaud or have heard of Blackbaud. In case you haven't, we are the world's leading cloud software provider for those who are doing fundraising. So we specialize in nonprofits and fundraising, offering solutions across the board. I'm not going to give a wholesale speech on this because it's not what it's for, but always happy to talk about it. Most people have some kind of a Blackbaud solution that they've used.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Sure.
So Jennifer, let's dive right in. Tell us how you went from working for a nonprofit, and I'll let you tell us the details of that, how you got into the fundraising field to begin with, then working for nonprofit, and then your journey to the for-profit world, please.
Sure, absolutely. So I worked in prospect development for over a decade. Getting into prospect development, I feel like was a pretty standard, you fall into it, right?
Yeah.
There's no theory in prospect development. Like many people that I talked to, I had never heard of it. So I was working as an office manager at a neuropsych testing facility. And I decided that was my first job after college. And I decided that, I was kind of bored and I wanted to take some college classes. So I started to look at the university because I knew if you worked there, you could attend this was at UNCW, University of North Carolina-Wilmington.
Oh, okay.
So if you worked there, you got to attend classes for free, and that I wanted to go back and learn more about anthropology. And yeah. So found this job called prospect research. And I went, wait a minute, you like stalk people? This sounds awesome. Like I'm already doing this, right? I was single, I was dating, I was already doing this. You do this on richer people. So, and at that point, like you could actually print things off, and I had stars on the job description. I was very excited about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and my supervisor at the time, he had only been there for about 6 months ahead of me. So it gave us this really great opportunity to like build this prospect research program. There was a foundation already there, and we got to tweak it and move it and migrate it and really build it up to work. We did the transition right from reactive to proactive.
Nice.
Just really grew the program. And he ended up leaving and going to the University of Oxford.
Okay.
So I went into his role. This was several years later, and I went into his role, and then I created prospect management.
Nice.
We didn't have that before. It was something that we needed. Fundraising wise, we really needed to make the transition. So we created that program. And throughout this like decade of work, 12 years of work, we went from Banner to Razor's Edge 7, from Razor's Edge 7 to Razor's Edge NXT.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
you the database transitions in there. We pulled in analytics. We started using target analytics.
Okay.
And I became kind of like this liaison between the frontline fundraisers and our advancement services.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, you know, because I could put the hat on for like, oh, you want to get super data nerdy technical? Let's do it.
Right.
Oh, wait, I'm talking to frontline. Let me put that hat on and let's talk
Sure.
about for you.
Yeah, you got to be nimble to talk to those different worlds.
Yeah, it's legitimately two different languages. It really is. So I was bilingual in those. And that was really the key for making my transition over to the for-profit. I loved my time at UNCW. I loved my team. I loved what we were building. I strongly believe in it. We were seeing results, you know, and that's a testament to hard work from everybody. But Blackbaud gave me the opportunity to really talk to other higher ed nonprofits to really like help them figure out what their needs are.
Okay.
And put those puzzle pieces together because I love puzzles.
Oh,
So now I get to talk to lots of different higher ed organizations and hear about, okay, so what are your needs? What are you struggling with?
Sure.
Let's see if there's a software solution that can help. And that was the transition for me, was like, okay, I've got all of this knowledge. I'm ready to help apply it in other places.
That's dynamite. To have gone through several database migrations in your tenure in the nonprofit world. For people that maybe don't work in nonprofits or haven't gone through a database conversion, each one is a multi-year process with a lot of strategic troubleshooting and what do we need, what do we want, even before you get to decide on the vendor. So that is a lot of work, and you've done that several times.
And I did not lead that. I want to be very clear. I did not lead it, but I was involved in the process. So
sure.
I didn't have the heaviest lift, thankfully, but I did work side by side with those that were, and we were able to strategize about, okay, so where are we going to store this data? Here's what we need. And that's where that link to frontline was so pivotal to say, you know, well, this needs to be somewhere where our frontline fundraisers can access the data.
Yeah.
If we bury it in this hole, we can get it out for reports, but they'll never see it.
Sure.
You know, and if it's something like a capacity screening result, if it's something like a promotion, you know, you want to keep it somewhere where the gift officers are actually going to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when did the proverbial light bulb go off in your head that you could take your experience, your skills, your interest for data and go to the company that was providing the new database for you? And you mentioned NXT and such.
Yeah. So the light bulb came when they asked me to come work for them.
Okay.
I think they got sick of me poking holes in things and wanted me on their side. But so I went through all of the trainings. I got certified, BCRE Pro certified. I did every training I could. And then I actually started to present. So APRA Carolinas, current president of APRA Carolinas, got to get that plug out there.
Thanks for representing the Carolinas in APRA, Jennifer.
Absolutely. And you know, as a chapter leader, being involved with your chapter is a great way to get more dialed in to the prospect development community. And for me, it was like everything kind of aligned. I'd been in prospect development for many years. We were developing these programs. I wanted to kind of take all of this hard work and share it with others and say, hey, we've got this really great way of tracking leads in Razor's Edge and XT. Do you want to learn about it? Hey, we're doing really great things with geographic prospecting in Excel. Would you like to learn about it?
Yeah.
So presenting with APRA Carolinas, presenting at APRA International, some symposiums that happen here in the Southeast. And I actually partnered with my target analytics representative, Mike Sanders. So from Blackbaud, he and I partnered on a presentation, and afterwards he said, you know what, we need you to come work for us.
Awesome.
Come over to our side. And so that was kind of when the light bulb went off. And I will say now, Mike Sanders could sell water to a drowning man. He is that good. But he lined it up in the way that I needed it, where it was like, you've got these skills, you can help other organizations because you know what their struggles are, you know what they're going through, and you can talk to them about what's going on the way that other people can't.
Yeah, that's critical.
Oh man.
That's awesome. Was it hard for you at all? Because UNC Wilmington was your alma mater as well. So you had affinity with your employer in a way that a lot of other people don't. So what was that like?
Leaving was exceptionally difficult. Making the decision to leave and leaving was really tough. There were a lot of tears. Because I grew up there. I grew up there as a student, left, came back and worked there for so long. And a lot of my colleagues that I worked with, I was an old timer in the department. It had been over a decade. There weren't that many people there that had been there for that long. So we were pretty bonded, and all of the new people that came in, just the passion that they have for fundraising and for making college accessible to students, getting the money that we need for programs, all of that, that was why I was there.
Yeah.
So the idea of not being a part of that was really difficult. And truthfully, I almost did not make the jump because I loved my team. I loved the people. I loved our mission. But at the end of the day, it just provided the opportunity to work remote, the opportunity to help more people. And it just aligned with where I wanted my career to go. So I ended up making the jump. And I also knew that these guys, like the team, had it. They didn't need me. They had it. I left it in really capable hands, and I felt great about what I had done with the program and who was going to be running it after I left. So that made it easier.
Sure, I can imagine. That is rewarding when you've invested, your time and your skill in bringing others along, and they're at a point where they can just pick up and hit the ground running and make it their own in their own iteration. So excellent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Jennifer, you mentioned before we went live, and then I mentioned at the beginning of the recording that you get asked this question quite a bit, and love for you to take the time you want to address it, because it sounds like it's a topic of interest for people in your network and they reach out to you. So what was it like for you professionally, personally, to go from nonprofit to for-profit? What were the challenges? You mentioned working remotely, which need I say more? Like that is such a great benefit. But yeah, just talk to us about that a little bit, please.
Absolutely. This is a topic that I get asked a lot. What was it like to go from a nonprofit to for-profit? So I worked for the state, right? I had job security.
Yeah.
It was I'm not going to say it was an easy job, but it was the kind of job that it was hard to lose, right? So you always felt comfortable coming in. It wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the salary wasn't great. The benefits were good, not fantastic. but the rewarding nature, right, of working in fundraising and seeing it all come together, that was very rewarding. That helped my heart a lot.
Yeah.
Making the transition to for-profit, it's like driving. Okay, so when you're in nonprofit, you're in this 18-wheeler, right? You're going down, and it's hard to start, it's hard to stop, it's hard to turn and make adjustments. You can do it, but you really need to plan ahead, right? So then you start working for-profit. That thing is like being on a motorcycle, right? You want to turn, you turn. You want to go, you go. You want to stop, you stop. But there's less security, right? You're motorcycle. Everything has an impact in the for-profit. There isn't that job security, but the benefits are there. You can make changes fast. And coming from my experience here at Blackbaud, I still get that heart that I was looking for, because I am still working with nonprofits.
Oh, yeah.
Education. I'm able to, help them. They have a budget, right? Everybody has a budget. And so it's up to me on my end to try to put the puzzle pieces together of, okay, so here's what you need and here's what you're working with. How can we get these things to align? So that's, I get to do the problem solving. I get to help nonprofits. I get to tell somebody, and I do this. So that's a big transition, right? From being in this big 18-wheeler that's hard to turn and it's hard to change, to being able to just kind of zip all around in this motorcycle.
It's a great analogy. I love that, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. The salary is great. I will say that. The remote first approach at Blackbaud, anybody who's considering remote work, when I first started with Blackbaud, they were remote friendly. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So I would come into meetings. I, was not down in Charleston where the headquarters is. So I would come into meetings and I would be on a screen with several other remote employees, and a lot of the employees would be at a table, and we were included, right? But it wasn't as inclusive as you would want it to be. A little bit harder to jump into the conversation because you're on the screen,
Okay.
Now they've made the switch. COVID changed everything.
Yeah.
They've now made the switch to remote first, which means everybody's remote. All of our meetings are on Teams. We're all dialing in. It's a very level playing field. So everybody can cut in because everybody's remote.
Yeah.
You can get promoted. You can manage people remotely. It's absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome.
And you get dog barking in the background, which is just an added bonus. She gets very excited.
And before the dog started barking, you may be hearing one of my kids using our swivel chair like a roller derby right above my basement where my podcast studio is. So
right,
we keep it real. Right. All kidding aside, I have a friend and a mentor who's a consultant by the name of Randall. He has his own podcast as well, and I was picking his brain for how to launch my own webcast, and he said, at least in his opinion, and I like it, that think of the podcast or whatever content you're trying to deliver as a classroom. And back in the day, at least, the professor or the teacher's writing on the board and the chalk breaks. It's still, the content is going to carry through no matter what it is that goes wrong or just goes amiss, or you get real life coming into play. And it's just, I try to keep this professional, but by no means perfect. So I welcome it.
Yeah, my dog has very strong opinions, and I like to think of her as sort of she's my assistant, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And, sometimes I actually did a presentation recently, and I asked people like, "Hey, who in the room?" My dog was introduced as part of my bio, and I said, "Hey, who in the room has heard my dog on a call?" And you see the hands go up. She has very strong opinions.
That's good.
But yeah, it's real life. You know, we're all people.
That's
And I think that that's something with COVID that really helped kind of level the playing field because everybody was working remotely for a while there.
Yeah.
And we all heard each other's kids do roller derby upstairs and come in requesting or demanding a snack, you know?
Right. Yes. So if I can follow up, I love that phrase remote first. And I've seen you post a little bit on LinkedIn about you utilizing that remote first policy, and you've posted about working out of state a couple of times. So if you can talk with us about what that remote first initiative or policy how that's impacted both your professional life, but also your personal life. For people like me, I work hybrid, and my parents are back in Massachusetts, and I aspire to work, from there for a period of time and elsewhere. But for you, it is standard. Like you can do this, I imagine, anytime. So what influence has that remote first policy been? How has it been, impactful for you? Maybe, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Like for me, like being out in nature and in different types of nature environments kind of feeds my spirit, my soul. So just, anything about that ability to work wherever, how that's been influential for you and your family.
It has been, it's been wonderful. I love to travel. My whole family loves to travel. I have a 4-year-old daughter. She is a trooper in the car. Like
awesome.
This kid, you could take her on a 14-hour car ride and she's like, all right, I got some toys back here. You keep feeding her snacks. She's a happy camper. So we're super fortunate in that respect.
Yeah.
And that's what remote first has allowed me to do. I tend to travel on the weekends. So we found out that through Airbnb, oftentimes if you rent for a month, it's cheaper than if you rent for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So if you're thinking about going somewhere for 2 weeks, hop in a month and look around and see if maybe you find a better monthly rate.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity to do this. But so we have picked different locations like Stowe, Vermont and Traverse City, Michigan. North Carolina mountains, we've gone out there. And so we'll just go and we'll rent a place and stay there. And my husband and my daughter will go adventuring. He's a stay-at-home dad right now while she's little.
Awesome.
So they'll go adventuring and I'm working, and then I get off work and they're like, okay, we have scouted out the best hikes. We found a restaurant, we found this, we found that. And then, they take me along. So I get to hit kind of the highlights.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I get a little bit jealous. I'm not going to lie. I get a little bit jealous that they're having so much fun while I'm working, but again, they weed out the stuff I don't want to do, and I get to come in and do the best stuff. And I get to work. People will comment on, they're like, oh, what room are you in? Or what state are you in?
Yeah, right. That is so cool.
Yeah. And they actually, Blackbaud started to do this me time program, which is like kind of like summer hours where you work 4 9-hour days and then you get to spend, you work 4 hours on the last day and you get to spend the 4 business hours on personal stuff, right? So you're still doing a 40-hour week, but during the business day, there's 4 hours that you can just go, whatever, be with your family, do doctor's appointments, whatever you want to do during your me time.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. And especially as we travel, it's been fantastic because it's sort of like It's almost like having a 3-day weekend. I do mine Friday afternoon. So it's sort of like having that 3-day weekend where it's like
Yeah.
in the house is still sort of waking up and then noon hits and I'm ready to party.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And, I guess, how does that maybe feed your engagement as an employee?
Great question. The ability to do the travel, to do the things that I love to do, to go see family, to go spend time, last month we were in Traverse City, Michigan for a month, and I was near my aunt and my uncle. And so we could have dinners at night, several times a week. My aunt was always out with my little one going and doing stuff. And it's a great way to stay connected and to feel, just to feel like I can live kind of different lives, really. It's like, this is Traverse City, Michigan, Jen. This is Florida, Jen. This is North Carolina Mountain, Jen. This is Raleigh, Jen. Having that option to be able to just live more broadly in different areas, it's been very, very good for us, for our family. It keeps life very interesting. And I'm so lucky. My supervisors are very supportive. They want me to go out and do this stuff. They're doing this stuff. It's fantastic. Yeah.
That's so great. I'm happy for you. And the impact, on your direct family and your aunt and uncle as well. And just the experiences you can have while still being committed to your employer. And
well, I was going to say, and that is it, because everything is done remotely. I don't feel disconnected from my team. I've got them on Teams. We're chatting, texting each other on Teams, and I've got emails coming in and I'm addressing that. And it feels very much the same as when I'm at home working. I have one less, I only travel with one monitor instead of the two.
Oh, okay.
So that takes some adjustment, right? To go down. But but aside from that, it feels very much like I am at work, I'm here, I'm doing my job. My response rates are just as fast. But then I get to go do something really cool and unique in the afternoon.
Yes. Yeah. And I like what you mentioned about your monitor. It reminds me, last spring of 21, my wife and her whole family went up to Sun Valley, Idaho for I think it was 3 days. And I worked from the Airbnb, and I brought my monitor with me. So I'm like, I can't be on this little screen.
Yes.
And it was kind of like a funny joke in the family of like, well, Tim packed the monitor and he had to put the luggage around it so it wouldn't crack. But looking, I'm a total amateur with that. But it was just it was fun to have that, funny comment, and it's still like a family joke. But also, like, I was able to work and then just disconnect and not be like, oh, I gotta take 3 days of PTO.
Exactly. I'll often take like a PTO day or something like when I first get there, just to get everything set up and get acclimated. But most of what we've been doing, I can just travel on the weekend and get us set up and I'm ready to go. And the extra monitor, man, it's worth it. It's essential.
Yes, it is.
It's hard to work on just a laptop. But 2 monitors I felt like was too much to pack. I was like, all right, we've gone too far. I'll do the one. But boy, did
sacrifices.
I missed it. I really did. I also have a pretty terrible pen addiction. I've got like a whole tower of pens, and so narrowing it down to like the top 5 was really difficult. Yeah.
I like that.
Insight into how I work over here.
So cool. So Jennifer, you talked about being president of APRA Carolinas, and I'm the current president of APRA Utah. And I'd love to, just in this last question for this round at least, and I'd love to have you back because I think there's a lot more that you can share from your experience, and just knowing that some of the other questions I planned to ask were ones that were of interest to you. So let's do a round 2 at some point in the future.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So for this last question, as the president of APRA Carolinas, how long have you been in that role, first of all? And secondly, how do you balance this significant volunteer leadership role with the work you do for Blackbaud, with obviously family commitments and all else that you're juggling in your own life?
I don't. This is a short answer there, right? And it's difficult. I have a phenomenal board. I'm blessed with a phenomenal board, which several of them have been in their positions for a couple of years, and so they know what they need to do, and they're just great to work with. I've been the president for about 1.5 years now. Okay. Supposed to be a 2-year commitment, looking at a 3-year commitment. We had a president-elect rollover. So, so the incoming wants a little more overlay time. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year. But yeah. But I have been on the board. I mean, I don't actually know when I joined the board. It's been many, many years. Okay. I came in as membership chair and education chair. I kind of did a co-chair because we were hosting our fall. Yeah, it was our fall conference we were hosting down in Wilmington. And so I've sat in a lot of the different seats on the board, and I've worked with just incredible board members. As you know, leading the board is its own beast, right? Yes. It's an unpaid part-time job unto itself.
Yes, it's true.
Yes. But having that engaged board go out and line up content and help with ideas, and that's one of the things that I really love about our board is that we get together once a month. We have board calls, and we just bounce ideas around. We're like, okay, here's what we have coming up. What's the best way to do this? How do we want to do that? Who do you think would be a good speaker for this? Look at this topic. Let's talk to our members. Yeah. So we try to keep it conversational. We try to get everybody's opinions in there and run with ideas that people are having, and try to provide some fun content as well as professional content. So we had like a board member's favorite mug shots, blog post, social media flop. I'll call it a flop. It did not take off on social media as we hoped it would, but it was a lot of fun for us to do. And we all shared what our favorite mug was and the story behind it. And so just trying to connect, and it's a lot though to do the volunteer with the job and the family. I make a lot of lists. I'll put
nice. Do you use your pen collection to make those lists?
I do. I do.
Good. I make a list every Sunday for the week ahead, and I try to not have any work content on that, but it's everything else in life. I just like to have that separation.
I need to marry them.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do. I actually do bullet journaling. I don't know if you've done any of that, but I create weekly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I put down my deadlines on there and progress and track it. Where is it in the cycle? Carry it over to the next week. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Lots of lists.
Do you keep the lists or do you ditch them when they're done?
I keep the lists. I can't. I've got too many details in there, but yes, I keep the lists.
Awesome.
I have I have a nice overview of the
Wow.
entire year for APRA Carolinas, our networking, our education, our blog.
Whoa.
What are we going to post? Oh, we're legit, Tim. We're legit.
That's awesome. Holy cow.
Because we like to think ahead and have an idea of what's coming down the pipeline. We don't always share it with everyone, but
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Whoa. How many people are on your board, if I can ask?
We have, right now we have 9. We generally have 10.
Oh my goodness.
So education is a big lift because they're doing all of the education content, getting everything. We try to do 2 conferences every year and then webinars throughout the year.
Yeah.
Blog posts are either every month or every other month. Try to do every month. And then networking. We try to host networking every month, which is just an hour. We'll have different topics that we'll focus on, or we'll just get together and just kind of productively complain.
Oh,
Just a temperature check, how you doing?
Yeah.
How's it going? Let's talk about how we can't get people in our job vacancies. Let's talk about whatever's going on. So
Yeah.
stay engaged.
That is so great. And I'm president of APRA Utah until December, and we've got 4 people on the board, and it's a much smaller state in terms of institutional representation. But
well, and you're growing it, right?
We're trying to grow it. Yeah, absolutely. And we've changed the bylaws because some of the bylaw notes were like you had to live in the state or work for a state, an institution based in Utah. And now with remote, it's like we've got people living in state who work for Memorial Sloan Kettering, for example. And you got to be adaptable. So
absolutely. So are you now like either or? You can either work for someone who is in Utah or live in Utah?
Yes, either or. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So everyone who's listening, join the board in Utah.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And I was remiss, Jennifer. I didn't articulate for our audience what APRA is, and I think that would be worthwhile. So APRA is the international organization. It's an acronym that stood for Association of Prospect Researchers for Advancement. It now encompasses membership where people work in data analytics, prospect development, relationship management. So, much broader scope than the original membership body, which was primarily prospect researchers. So international in its reach, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. I think there's 1 or 2 countries, perhaps in the Middle East as well, and Southeast Asia. Don't quote me on that, but it's something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then a lot of state or regional based chapters. And so APRA Carolinas, APRA Utah, and it's a great forum for professional development to network, to bounce, as Jennifer mentioned, bounce ideas off, have conversations about what works, what doesn't work in our chapters. And Jennifer and I connected last year, just as background for how we got to today, through one of these APRA networking events. And she invited me, I think, to the APRA Carolinas mug happy hour in the morning. But I think it was like
too early for you.
It was 6 in the morning in Utah time. Yeah. But
we've transitioned to afternoon networking because we do actually have a lot of members who are on the West Coast. You don't have to be in the Carolinas to join the chapter. Same for Utah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we changed our networking to accommodate all US hours. Sometimes we'll still do a morning coffee chat, but we've tried to switch it to the afternoon so other people can join in if they want to.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciated your outreach and invitation for that. And that's indicative of how during the pandemic and at least the first phase of it and beyond, that a lot of our chapters have opened up content, whether it's days-long conferences or smaller networking events or social hours virtually, to people throughout APRA International. And it just makes it more of a robust opportunity to meet other people and see where that leads. And sometimes, it can lead to conversations like this. It can lead people to, be more aware of opportunities that they may not be aware of elsewise if they're just focusing on opportunities in their state or their chapter. But now people can work remotely to a far greater degree than before. So just a really awesome time for prospect development and for nonprofits and for-profits. So
Absolutely.
we're covering the gamut here.
We got it. We got everybody. We've rebounded.
Yes. Yeah. Jennifer, any last thoughts? Anything else you're dying to share before we wrap up session 1?
Just thank you for having me. I think this was a lot of fun, and I'd love to come back if you have other questions that I didn't cover.
I do. Yeah.
Join your local APRA chapter, whoever they might be.
Awesome. Thank you for that plug. And thank you, Jennifer, for your time today. This has been a really enjoyable and fun conversation for me and for our audience. I think particularly where you addressed that question you get so often about how was the transition from nonprofit to for-profit for you right out of the get-go. That's great. And I'll definitely highlight that when I post this on social media. So thank you so much for your time, Jennifer.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks, Tim.
And absolutely. And thanks to our audience today. You can find Jennifer's conversation on my website, peopleinfundraising.com, as well as other interviews I've done with people in the nonprofit and for-profit sectors in the fundraising world. And thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.